Just a little bit about me. I was born and raised here in Dallas, did my BFA in Mississippi. My master's I did at the University of North Texas. I was an adjunct professor until very recently, like a month ago, and kind of worked around all of the institutions in DFW. And then I always say I'm a painter first, but I intuitively make, so it takes me into some weird spaces that aren't necessarily just painting. So talking about the last 18 months, it's really hard to sum that up into slides that are short and brief, but I will do my best. I started out my time pretty early on. I had a residency up in Indiana. Indiana's cool, but I actually stopped on the way in St. Louis or near St. Louis at this ancient burial site at the Cahokia Mounds. And I got hyper fixated on this shape of mounds, which if you've walked through the studios, you've probably seen some weird mounds around. Those are mine. And so I spent the whole entirety of the residency. I went in thinking I would work on this big, large painting, and I hyper fixated and started doing 8 million tiny drawings of these mound shapes and like these totemic beings. And they've stuck with me for the last 18 months, basically. And I got hyper fixated on this shape. Here's more pictures of that. Here's more photos of the things that I did there. I brought some of these home. I work really fast. I work in a wide range of scale, but really only have one mode of working, which is speedy. And so I'm constantly cranking out work. So I have a lot of drawings. I wanted to talk a little bit about just the time here of the gift and space of the time in this studio space, which is huge. And I spent a lot of hours in here. During my 18 months, like I said, obsessively explored this imagery of the hill. I also went into exploring different materials and started painting on felt, which is not a traditional painting medium, especially with oil paint. It kind of fights all of the materials, and for some reason I really like that. So I'm very process driven. Here's some close-ups of the felt just so you can see the texture. It's kind of gross, but it's kind of great at the same time. So these are my studio assistants. I gained a new studio assistant during my time in the CU. If you've been around, you've probably also seen them. They're kind of a mess. The little brown one, June right here, she's eaten a lot of paint. But they're always around, hanging out. I did a lot of big experiments alongside a lot of the smaller drawings and things that I did just on a daily basis. Worked as large as I could in this space. And although they're really large works, I also had a lot of fun going into detail in some of the smaller moments within those and playing with those. And I went into thinking about the exterior and the interior of these mound spaces, creatures, things. And so my work has slowly I went from abstract work to recognizable imagery, and then I'm kind of shifting back into more abstract again. And now I'm hyperfixated on them being enterable spaces. So I'm looking at windows, portals, doors, things like that. And you can see this is some of my recent work here. Again, more abstract, also focusing on kind of like the view of through something. And I wanted to shout out the CU staff while I was here, just because they facilitated so much of the stuff that you're hearing about today. I've worked in workshops doing stained glass, needle felting, printmaking, rug tufting. I listened to lectures about financial literacy, about gallery relationships, the works, and all of that is because of the staff here. I sold a lot of work through the studio just with people passing through or the staff connecting me with people that were looking for certain type of work. I've had critiques in this space. I've done studio visits. We got some private collection tours in galleries and museums and things that we would not normally have access to. That was amazing and pretty once in a lifetime. So, and then I showed work all over, just like so many of us have talked about. Had a lot of shows in DFW. We went to Austin for our group show. We've done a lot. And so I wanted to thank staff, and then of course my fellow cohort and friends that I've made through the CU. I just want to point out, this is Taylor smiling.
Can we have that picture?
Oh yeah, I'll give it to you.
Where that hat's from?
Oh yes. What's next for me? So like I said, I just had a huge transition. I moved from Denton after being an adjunct up there, moved about a month and a half ago to East Dallas. So I'm excited to continue to grow my roots here in Dallas. And I also started a new job. I'm still teaching in sort of an academic space, but I'm in a private school that's a lower school doing extracurricular programming. So if you're ever interested in teaching little kids, let me know. But I'm excited to continue my art practice, teaching workshops, hopefully collaborating, continuing the community that we've got to build in our time here. And I have a group show coming up that Catherine talked about. I'm also in that Studio 3 launch event on the 25th. And then I'm hopefully gonna have a show in the Bodecker in the fall, but dates are maybe in flux. So yeah, that's forthcoming. So watch this space. Thanks.